Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Plum Talks. Today we are going to talk about identifying trends using data analytics. And to discuss this, once again, we have with us the head of digital marketing at MPL, Mr. Sandesh Gupta. Hi Sandesh, how are you today?
Hey Natasha, hi. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing awesome and thank you so much once again for joining us again for the
Yeah.
podcast. It really means a lot. And the last podcast was so good that we understood a lot of new concepts, we understood a lot of new strategies, and I'm sure this one would be even better.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. And to start the conversation already, can you talk a little bit about trend recognition through a lens of digital marketer? And why is it even important? Just to give a glimpse, an idea to our audience.
Hmm. So I think, see, digital marketing, since the time I have started, I think doing more than 10 year plus, right? It's a very evolving field. And in order to, just be on top of the things, right? It's very important to understand what exactly is going into the market. So trend is something, when you have to be up to date, right? So it is something that you have to track it on a very regular basis. It can be anything, right? It's just not related to, let's say, content creative. It can also be related to, let's say, how you are, what are the new channels where you can run the marketing, right? What exactly is coming up, and just try to upgrade yourself with those things. I think that's the key, and I think that is also making it little different, right? Because so far, I think it is not yet become monotonous, right? Still there is a lot that is happening, I think, with this new recent change of AI, right, which is again going to change everything, I think. So that's why I think looking into the trends is very, very important. And it can basically, I have personally seen, in two, three businesses, right, where it has helped us or helped the business basically to just look for a very simple trend and, double down on those things. And, gradually it has become one of the growth lever for that particular business. So I think that's the, in nutshell, I think this is something which is very important. And all the digital marketer or performance marketer has to track it very closely.
And would you say that it's important for each and every domain? Like it's not necessary whether you come from e-commerce, sales, SaaS, maybe a gaming industry, fashion industry. Is it common for every industry?
So common for every industry, yes, but I think the quantum might change. I think primarily where it is more on D2C or on e-commerce, or let's say where the end consumer is your and where the user is basically your consumer, right? So there I think the impact is little higher when you're talking to a mass, right? Because there I think the trend changes very regularly, because you have a very different kind of people, how they are interacting, the geography, local nuances, right, culture, and all those things will come in picture. When it comes to SaaS and all this industry, there also trend matters, but I think the frequency and the volume might differ, because there your end customer is not a user, right, like a daily user, right? So I think that's just a basic change, but I think it is agnostic to industry. Everywhere you will see a trend, it's just the volume and the frequency that might vary depending on the kind of business people are doing.
Mhm. Awesome. Also, can you define a few areas, for example, social media, especially
Mhm.
for B2C or B2C audience? Social media is a great, we can say, segment, is a big segment that is impacting the trends. Can you
Hmm.
define any other such factors that are fluctuating the trends?
Hmm. No, I think social media obviously is one. Primarily, I think it's also about the user behavior of going through the content and the not just the creative part of it, but I think also going through the content, right? I think I've seen personally where I think people are just creating a good amount of content, right? And they're not just publishing it on social media, but let's say on different channels like Google search, blogs, right? Your Reddit, and different segments where people just come for for consuming that content. Even I think in that way, Pinterest is also is one of the main area. But I think all comes under social. But yes, I think other channels like your blog, your Reddit documentary, or Medium, right? There also I've seen a lot of people coming consuming the content, right? Uh, that is one. Second, I think few things can also play a very important role is like the kind of video you are creating, right? Whether you are up to the trend or not. And I think just looking those things can really help you in double downing those impacts. So I think those has a lot of potential, and I think you never know when certain content will, definitely become a hit for you. So I think it's just like keep on doing it. Uh, I think one has to define, I think, two things. One is going with movement marketing, what we say in our terms, right? That what exactly is recent. Second is doing a consistent effort, right? And if you're not balancing between both, I think then the challenge comes, because then you might not see a very consistent growth. So I think you have to be with both the things, and yeah, you will see great results.
I will have to, obviously, it makes too much sense, and I'll definitely point out one thing that you mentioned. You said that you have to keep creating content. You never know what really works.
Yeah, yeah,
And this is so true because we can see so many pieces of content that
yeah,
as a content creator or digital marketer, we might not assume them to be working well,
yeah,
but they actually turn out to be great. And I think trend has a great impact on that, especially for the B2C and D2C audience.
yeah,
On Instagram, as you can see, some popular trending reels are going
yeah,
on,
yeah,
and if you want to be a part of such trend, you can just create a reel on that particular
yeah.
song, and it can go to a better audience, right?
Right, right.
All right. So, our focus today would be around data analytics more.
Yeah.
So, how do you think data analytics contribute to understanding these trends in the
Hmm.
context of consumer behavior and
Hmm.
making them more relatable and impactful?
Hmm. No, I think simple examples, right? Let's say if you're running any D2C brand or e-commerce brand, right? A lot of users are coming to your website, to your app, right? So if you are just start analyzing, okay, what exactly they are doing, right? That eventually will help you in understanding. I think I can share a few examples on that piece. I think when I worked with a few e-commerce brand, right? We have simply started seeing the data that generally people search in the search bar, because that also get recorded at the back end somewhere, right? So most of the time it shows you a search result if that product is available on the website. But let's say if the product is not available, obviously a close variant will come up, but you still have a query that the user has listed or searched on that search bar. So let's say if you're just going through it, right, it can help you out in two ways, right? One, you can understand what exactly people are looking for it. Let's say you have to increase your portfolio, right, in your D2C or e-commerce, right? Like one simple example, when I was working with Wakefit, right? Uh, we have launched the furniture segment, and the sofa obviously is like in India, if you can see, the searches are obviously very high. But what we have seen from certain geographies like Mumbai, Maharashtra, and all, where although we know that the area of living is very small, people have started looking for sofa bed and sofa come bed kind of a query. And obviously, we have not launched that yet. But I think when we have seen the potential and the kind of queries that you are getting on a daily basis, that has just basically we have just highlighted to the category managers that why we are not launching. And again, this will also give you a direction that where exactly you can launch with, right? Which location, right? Sometimes these are very open questions for a business. Okay, what to do next, where to do next, right? Okay, I know. Okay, I have to launch this. So when you will start looking into those trends, right, which is sometimes people ignore, right, that okay, I don't want to understand. But I think when you will just start going through your own first party data, which is your own app data or your own website data, you'll find a lot of merit, and I think that all can help you in just launching or double downing on certain things which is already there, right? And you will see that okay, definitely this is helping, and then you can further iterate and try to see how you can further build it more. So I
Mhm.
think this is one of the example that personally I have seen and has helped us a lot in the
Mhm.
growth.
Awesome. Can you just to highlight it better, can you also highlight, just give us one more example into the same sector, like
Yeah.
where identifying, like we identified a very minor trend
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
it actually helped. to, it became a major game changer for the business?
Mm.
Can you
I think
give us some insight?
definitely recently with my MPL thing as well, right? So I generally take care of the US market, and in the US business, we all know that iOS is very heavy, right? So generally it's a no-brainer. Okay, if you launch any campaign, you have to think about iOS people. You have to go very high. Uh, what happened exactly is when we have launched this, or when I was running the campaign, I've just started looking my own data on Google Analytics. Let's say, where the people are coming from, how they're doing it, what exactly they're doing it.
Mhm.
You won't believe, I was seeing quite a huge potential of users who are coming from Android devices.
Okay.
Okay, which again, I think when I started, I was like, what will be the market? It will be very less. Why we have to worry about, right? But when I've seen my own data and then I've just started doing some research, right? I found, can you guess what is the market size for US in Android?
I guess, can you give me an estimation about like what did you estimate for the iOS audience?
So basically it's iOS and Android, right? In India,
Yeah.
majorly
No, no, I
90.
was just
uh,
saying maybe even lower than one fourth of the audience that you estimated for iOS.
so basically you're saying like less than 25%, right?
Yeah, less than 25%.
So the data, like if you're looking for 100 folks, roughly 45 people are there on Android in US. So,
Okay.
which is huge. Obviously, before roughly 5 years back, it was something like that, 25% or 20%.
Mhm.
But in the recent years, because of the new phone launched by Android folks, this has gradually increased. So I
Okay.
think that's a real game changer, primarily because of two things, right? One, iOS, we know that there is a lot of privacy that has started from the new versions of 14.1 and all. So you're not getting a lot of data where you can optimize your campaigns,
Yeah.
primarily on iOS. But when you know that, okay, there is already a lot of gold available in terms of data on Android, right?
Mhm.
You'll just see that trend and you can. So obviously in my marketing budget, Android was nothing,
Mhm.
right? But when I've started seeing that, okay, there is a lot of organic value that itself is coming, why should I not double down and, try to, invest a lot and try to, utilize and optimize? I think that was just a minor thing that we have done. And I think the kind of data that we have received from the Android audience has further helped us in figuring it out, okay, what exactly we need to, improve in our app and, what exactly we need to do for the user so that we can help, provide the right experience and everything. I
Mhm.
think this again is a very minor trend because no one was looking into it, no one was bothering into it, but I just looked into it and I was like, why not?
Mhm.
So yeah,
I think when you mention this minor trend, I think it takes a very detail oriented eye to catch this
yeah, yeah,
particular change. And because there are so many things that while we're doing data analytics, there are so many things that we can actually see, and it is very easy to look into only the major sections, like these are the things that we aimed for and we are getting that, and maybe there are some pre-described assumptions that we are focusing on. So, as a marketer, we are mostly we carry on with that mentality. But looking into such trends, I think it will make a major difference.
yeah, right, right,
Because
right.
even if it is only 45% of what iOS market brings in, it's still 45%.
Yeah, very
And
huge.
organic reach is the best way of
Yeah,
marketing, and you
yeah.
got it there. Awesome. So, moving on, how does data analytics ensure inclusivity in recognizing and capitalizing on trends, like preventing the oversight of diverse consumer segments
Hmm.
in market research and e-commerce? Like you can take the example of e-commerce as well, wherein I just want to understand because, as you said, that for MPL, let's say, there has been a diverse audience, and can you talk about how you keep it inclusive for that segment?
Hmm. No, I think definitely. I think MPL, even for any other brand which is in e-commerce, right? You're basically creating a product or for a different segment of users, right? And uh, I think one thing is very important that you have to find a common, segment between everything, right? So it can be the way you are communicating, the way you are creating, or the creatives that you are putting out, right? It should not be very specific to any a local based audience or something like that. It should be little more generic. But I think personalization again plays a very important role when you're looking or doing any kind of a 0 to 1 business, right? Because in India also we know that the kind of content that works in South India versus North India is also very different,
Yeah.
right? So if you're just focusing, I think it is important to have the generic way of things, but I think so it's again a fine balance, right? You cannot have a lot of local content which is just overshooting your generic piece.
Mhm.
But again, you have to find a balance that okay, whenever a user is coming and you have certain insight about that user, right? That okay, this user may be coming from this location, and yes, he has already purchased. So I think this data generally works better when you have a returning user, right?
Mhm.
Because then you can give a very fine experience to that user, understanding that the kind of product he has purchased from the location, and different way of tracking this data, right? Because everything is now very much possible. So
Mhm.
then it can just help, right? For example, right, in our case, right, in the MPL piece as well, right? Once you know that, let's say if I'm doing a marketing on a certain set of targeting audiences, right? I know that this user primarily I'm acquiring from a segment of casual gaming, right? So if
Mhm.
I'm selling them, let's say a card category game, right, it might not be the right fit for him, right?
Yeah.
And let's say if my app is just talking about card category, then if a user is coming, right, and he's just experiencing this thing, then we there is a high chance that we will lose this user, right?
Mhm.
Parallelly, if you know that this user is coming from there and you have certain segment which talks about casual category, try to boost that first, so that at least you will have a right experience for that user. And
Mhm.
then eventually, obviously, you can cross sell, right?
Yeah.
Eventually you can say that okay, fine, now you have experienced this much, we have something new for you, right? And gradually then you can see that yes, this user is also translating and going to a different category and playing certain games. I think that is something you have to look for. You cannot do just vanilla thing that okay, let's just have something and run for it. I think this is I think a few things where you cannot just take things for granted. Whenever you're doing something, start monitoring, I think from day one. Key KPIs, I think that you talked about, right? Obviously, those are very, very important. So I think if you're seeing that there is a drop, look, I think what you have done from where you are, getting the user, why he is not converting, right? And go, I think, in detail. And then I think the answer will be very simple. I think when you problem solve I think so far I have seen that the answers are very, very simple. It's just like
Mhm.
we overlook a lot, right? That we always think and we
Complicated. Yeah.
always, yeah, we always just think and understand okay, this might bug, but I think when you deep dive, then you understand that okay, the solution is very simple.
Yeah.
So
I think the winning situations are those only where the
yeah,
solutions are very simple
yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes be complicated.
yeah,
And one more point that you mentioned, like I think it's a great example that you took, and it lets the listener, it will let the listener understand that even if we have diverse audience, if we could focus on one common point like you
yeah,
mentioned, one common point, and focus on that instead of you know serving them anything and taking things like okay, this is something that would work for them, and you might lose a user there, potential user there. So I think it's a great example wherein you already mentioned that something common can change, can make a difference there.
yeah,
All right, I think this was one of the challenges. Like, how do we cater to a diverse audience? Can you point out any other challenges while we are focusing on trend recognition? Are there any other challenges that we, as marketers, face? And we see that okay, these are the things that while we're looking at data analytics, these are the challenges that are supposed to come. And if you could share an example as well, it would be helpful. And how do you solve those challenges?
hmm. No, I think the answer is in data only. Sometimes we see that okay, something is working, right?
Mm.
So we just blindly start following without doing any kind of a research, right? So when I'm talking about research, is primarily I think if you know that okay, this has potential, right? And I think this covers both the thing, like the solution and the problem part as well. I think the problem is this only, that don't follow any trend very blindly, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is now a habit, right? A lot of young marketer, right? They just start seeing, okay, something is happening, and they will just, be very mad about it, and try to enhance, scale it at any cost, right? But I think the larger part of that discussion is that, okay, fine, if you're doing it, and I think just point your or carry your discussion with certain proof of concept, or certain research that you should do, so that the proper weightage should come for that trend, right?
Mhm.
uh, I think people generally overlook things like, okay, what exactly, let's say if there is a trend, okay, I'm seeing it, right? One important for point for me is that in future, right, if you're doubling down on, if you're scaling that piece,
Mhm.
uh, whether you have the potential in the market for those things or not, right? When I'm saying potential, whether there is a targetable audience, which can be replicated for the same thing that you're looking as a trend, right?
Mhm.
So just said, you are seeing that, okay, two or three people are doing something different, right? And let's say if you would like to scale that, right? So like for example, I've mentioned this sofa bed kind of a thing, right?
Mhm.
Now it's not like, okay, I'm seeing that something is happening, okay, let's just launch it. If I'm
Mhm.
not doing my research and cross verifying that whether this market is there or not, whether people are really selling or buying that kind of a product or not, right? Then things will definitely fall apart, right? Then you will not be able to, you will see some growth, right? But that
Mhm.
growth will not be very huge growth. I think this is one of the another challenge that I've seen, that just not going in depth when you're looking in any trend, and without any research and without any detailed study about that particular piece, you just going very blindly about that particular piece and launching a lot of new things around it, right? I think that's another, I would say, a very big mistake a lot of young marketers generally do.
Mhm.
So I think just try to avoid it, try to always do some detailed understanding about that particular trend, and then I think just create a case for you, for that particular trend, that definitely we should do. And if it will become big, there is a potential of, maybe doing 1 to 1,000 or something like that.
Mhm. Uh, that I think the first point that you mentioned, don't trust anything blindly, because
Yeah.
people are doing that. And the major impact, negative impact that this see here is that the reason of the trend, or the reason that why such thing is trending right now, could be very different from what we thought.
True.
And it can negatively impact the brand identity, how
Yes.
we are running the marketing campaigns, etc. This is one thing that as a marketer we always have to figure out. So
Basically, you have to know that, okay, where exactly you have to say a no, right? Because you will see a trend daily, right? But you have
mhm,
to be very selective, okay, where you have to go about it. Because I think you have so I think one is this, that why it impact negatively is primarily you have a limited set of bandwidth with
mhm,
respect to the, let's say, your product team, your dev team, right? You have if you're building something, you have to take help from everyone, right?
mhm,
And if you're just asking, okay, fine, do this, there is a something that you're losing, right? So
mhm,
always weigh that thing, whether if I'm doing it right, will that going to help me in a longer run or not? I think that I've already mentioned, but I think this
yeah,
is where you have to just double think and try to understand, okay, that the bandwidth is limited, you cannot just do everything. So try
mhm.
to be little selective. Don't think like that is the only, one last point I would say, that selectiveness is very, very important.
You since you talked about selectiveness, a very random question came to my mind. Do you think? I think you have noticed this as well, that on Instagram, when there is a trending reel, there are so many trending songs. Every day we see a new song and we are
Yeah. Yeah.
repeating it in our minds as well. There is such a huge impact of Instagram. So, do you think it is also as a B2C or D2C owner, especially who are catering to the consumer side? Do you think they also have started creating maybe real content or video content on such trending audios, which
Hmm.
is which might not relate to their brand identity, and they're still doing it,
Hmm.
as you mentioned about selectivity. So, do you think it's actually impacting them in a bad way? Because following the trend is actually giving them the required attention,
Right.
is getting them the attention required.
I think, as per my understanding, yes, people are still doing it, but I think see, every brand comes with a certain brand recall and brand tonality, right? So uh, if you are started doing everything right, then you're losing it, right? Basically, then I don't have a spatial recall in my mind, right? That okay, like why I should. So for example, right, when you're looking for this quick delivery services, right? So Instamart comes with certain set of things. BB Daily comes with some certain set of things. Zepto has something, Blinkit has something, right? So if and again, I think when it comes to following this trend, right? I know that okay, Zomato do a lot of these things, but
Yeah.
then that is their identity, right? If they are doing it, I'm fine with that, right? Because they when they are doing it, I think they are just perfect in that, right? And people start following it. But let's say if any other XYZ brand has also started following, okay, I will become a Zomato and I will start, creating that kind of a content, right? Then I think somewhere you are losing your own identity, right?
Yeah.
Because you might not have the right set of talent, right, to create that piece, because it takes a lot of effort and lot of time to be at that position, right, where you can hold your things. So I think that's why I think if you are at that place, you have all the resources, then there is no problem. I think you should do that. And if you think that okay, this is not a cup of your tea, basically, then you can go selectively, because
Mhm.
when a user is thinking about you, right, it's not about the kind of content you are creating with respect to the trend, right? It should also relate that okay, if I'm trusting this brand, I think trust plays a very important role, right?
Yeah.
And it should not dilute that piece. This brand is doing just anything. so so I think there, I think it's a differentiator, I would say.
Mhm.
You have to first understand and analyze whether you are in that position or not. And if you're not, it's okay, right? You're not going to lose your customer and your audience anyways.
Yeah, makes complete sense because I think the audience will go, what is
Yeah.
happening? What is happening with this brand?
Yeah, they'll just get confused basically, right?
Yeah,
So that is what you don't want to do.
I think I'm not sure. Maybe Colgate tried to do something like that. I'm not sure if it wasn't related to trend, but they were trying to do something very, opposite to their brand identity.
Okay.
And yeah, there was maybe a new venture they started under Colgate
Mm.
only, which
Yeah,
really
yeah,
didn't work because uh, their audience didn't accepted it. They were
yeah,
looking at Colgate as something that can help us
yeah,
with the cleanliness and etc.
yeah,
So this is something that didn't work. Just giving an example here.
yeah. Right, right.
Moving ahead, I have a very trick question. So we have already always recognized trends as something. Let's expect them as a future event. It's not something that you can immediately think of, like, because trends are always about future.
Hmm.
Tomorrow there will be a new trend. When we think about trend, it's a future event.
Yeah.
So is there a way wherein you can maybe future proof your
Hmm.
brand for trend recognition, maybe a method through which you can, identify trends quickly? As a
Right.
business, as a marketer, I think it's a must learn skill because we always have to stay alert with the upcoming trend.
Yeah.
So first question is whether there is a way. If it is, then please share it with us. Please share
No,
it with us.
definitely. No,
Yeah.
I think tools play an important role when it comes to figuring out trend. I think follow the right tool is something which is very very important. I think to figure out this, because otherwise it's very difficult to figure out from where exactly I can see the trend, right? So I think first of all, for me, I think I generally follow tools like Google Trends, right? Which can give you whatever you are looking for, right? It's very handy, right? So quickly you can get the entire idea, right? And then I think your social media listening comes very very important for you, like if you're looking for your own first party data rather than looking for the entire universe.
Mhm.
So if you're listening your customers on a regular basis, right? So for example, like for us, right, in gaming, Discord is a very important channel,
Yeah.
right? Like if I am not reading that commentary on a daily basis, then I might be losing something. So it's not like that commentary just help you in predicting. So it can help you in predicting and also help you in figuring it out if something wrong is happening, right? So like let's say if we are in a gaming, real money involves and everything, right? So there is a huge chance of fraud. Sometimes user just comes in and say that some users are creating fraud and all these things. So
Yeah.
if I'm not reading and ignoring those kind of a commentary, right, then it just create a challenge with me, right? So I think with respect to how you can be on top of all this trend, I think you have to follow all the important key tools which can provide you understanding about the entire ecosystem as well as your own first party. Generally, your own first party is very easy, right? Because you can look for your own Google reviews, your own Facebook reviews, right? Your whatever different ways of reviews you are collecting, right? Then the different kind of support emails you are getting, the chatter that is happening, let's say on your Twitter account, let's say on your LinkedIn account. So this comes under the social listening part. If you're listening it very clearly, and you're using any tool, social listening tool, to just quantify these things and give you a detailed summary on a daily basis, that
Hmm.
should be the first thing that you should do. There, I think, very easy to understand, okay, what exactly positive, negative, neutral is happening with my personal brand,
Hmm.
right? Because I think consumer is the first person, right, who can tell you, okay, what is the trend for me, because
Hmm.
we are the one who are basically creating a trend, right? And if you already have a set of consumer who are interacting with your brand,
Hmm.
they will definitely talk about something on your page or somewhere at least, right? So that is first thing. Second, I think just use Google Trend, some other trend related websites, which is generally very important. Like for example, like for the content part, I generally follow SEMrush,
Yeah.
right? That gives a very important SEO content advices, right? That okay, what is something coming very new. uh, and I think another way is also you can create, and I think this is now it is very not simple, but I think possible with AI and all, that you can also plug in predictive analytics tool, right?
Hmm.
Where it can help you in predicting, understanding whether this can be a trend or not in future, right? So I think there anyways work is going on.
Hmm.
But I think currently, yes, productivity is there with respect to, let's say, finding out whether this audience that you've acquired, right, is going to help you in future, like how its payback will going to work, right? What is the ROAS and everything. But
Hmm.
I think we can also use the same, technology that the data people are using to predict, let's say something search is happening, whether this search is going to increase or not, right? But I think you have to feed a lot of data to train that model with a lot of data. I think that can also possible with that recent thing of AI and all basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to ask you that I think in the coming time, because since our last podcast as well, AI has evolved a lot,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
already can see it's like a very common term. If
yeah,
anybody talks about AI, everybody is like, "Yeah, what's new?" Because it has been such a regular in our lives, and
yeah,
I think maybe in the coming time, if AI is, if I'm not sure, it will take so much time, but I think AI will be very good at
yeah,
recognizing, because uh, as a marketer, I think we understand that there are patterns,
yeah,
and there have been things that are repeated, and there is a situation because of which it is being repeated. So there's a flow going on, and I
and
think
the cause effect thing. So if you
yeah,
know that okay, this is happening, so what is the cause, what is the effect? I think if you can just put that in a model, I think prediction can happen and this AI can happen basically.
yeah, and I think AI would be better in
Yeah.
recognizing that because of the amount of data it can scan through.
Yes.
Because we might need an entire research team to go through, and they might do absolutely amazing work, but
Yeah.
AI have the access to such unlimited data which is not maybe humanly possible for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, miracles to come, let's see.
Sure.
Moving ahead, what do you think happens after, let's say, if you could take an example here and just make our listeners understand, like, what if you recognize a trend? You said that in the example that you shared earlier, you said that we found out that around 45% audience were from Android. So
Mhm.
can you give us an example which can help us understand that, okay, if we recognize the trend, what happens after that? How do we actually use that? How do we utilize that?
Hmm. No, I think, as I mentioned, I think primarily you have to understand two things for this, right? Like, uh, let's say if I know that, okay, this certain trend has a potential, right? Uh, then what is that potential, let's say in the next 5 years, whether it will going to keep on growing, or let's say it will die down after some time, right? Second is how I can start utilizing and trying to change my strategy, whether there is a possibility of doing it or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Right.
it's not like like for example, let's say that okay, this is something which you would like to launch, right? But because of the challenges in terms of your current capacity, or let's say not the right time to launch anything, I think you have to value those things as well, right? So I think so I think again, I think first is okay, I know that in at my, for example, that Android example only, right? I was not seeing a huge part of Android people who are coming, right? Only a few folks were coming.
Yeah.
But then I realized that, okay, what is the total addressable market for that Android, right?
Yeah.
Then I figured out 45%. So that was a eureka moment for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, now I know that the opportunity is huge for me. It's not like that it's something very small. So again, it's not like, okay, I'm seeing something, okay, Android is there, so I should launch my Android app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm seeing that, okay, something is tangible, right? That, okay, the target addressable market, the TAM, generally we call it in marketing language, right? It's huge and it's very much comparable to your iOS. Then definitely you will go for it and try to, work around it and try to create a case, right? Because again, as I mentioned, you need to get a bandwidth of your product team, your development team, your content team, right? And everyone to, help you out for launching, right? And then obviously you can do the marketing, because without that you cannot do
Yeah.
anything. So this is, I think, one piece of thing where I think it is very, very important to understand whether this is going to help you and trying to, create that kind of a delta, right, or not, right? If given that, if I in my research, if I have found that, okay, this is not something very, very big, right, I might not have considered going behind it, right? I will be like, okay, fine, this is happening, but it's okay, right? I will use it or utilize it later once I know that I have, tattooed in my current strategy, something like that. I think that is very, very important. I think you should always weigh in whether this is going to be very, very big or not. I think if it is very, very big, I think people are just very open to help you out in whatever way they can.
Mm-hmm. I think it's true because so many times, even if we recognize an amazing trend,
Yeah.
as you already mentioned, we have to do the due
Yeah.
research onto
Yes.
it to understand whether it is aligning with other
Yes. Like
marketing
one
perspectives.
important example I can also share, the recent Flipkart, big billion day sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what they have just recognizes that people are very much familiar with the QR code, and this is primarily in your tier two, tier three, tier four. Not I'm talking about tier one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they found this data. They did a very great campaign with the offline part, right? Like with the newspaper print. So
Yeah.
they launched this QR code, right? And I was just reading one study that I think in 1 hour they have crossed 1 billion scan, right? Like this is huge, right? So like 1 million people have just interacted with your print ad. I think this is something like game changer, and that has just from a trend, like because QR scanning is so common now, because you
Yeah.
any Google Pay or anything, right? You just do that QR scan, and payment is done. So I think I think also trying to create a different way of utilizing that simple trend in a different marketing communication is also a key thing. You cannot just blindly follow something, as I mentioned, right? So I think how they have conceptualized it, right, and the outcome, right, of that particular campaign, I think
Yeah.
that itself says a lot about that trend can help you in whatever way. I think print generally people ignores, right? But the
Yeah.
proof of concept coming in that in 1 hour only people are scanning 1 billion, right? It's a huge
That's
number.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it took them a lot of time,
Yeah.
research, and
Yes.
discussions because uh, imagine somebody coming to us and saying that, say that they have to cover such a huge audience. Let's go for
Yeah.
something that is offline marketing. That's very
Yeah.
risky. I think
Yeah.
in today's day and age, it's very risky because
Very, very risky. Yeah.
almost everybody is available online, and
Yes.
it's a easier and better approach to go through
Mm.
digital. I think they had a lot of discussion, and whoever was leading that had a great imagination, and it went on successful. I think one of the factor could be, I don't know about this campaign. I haven't heard about it recently. So I think if they haven't mentioned anything there, but just kept the QR code, that could be the
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
it is
like,
really like that. So they
yeah.
have created a big QR code, multiple QR codes, I would say, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about like, we generally say "boojo to jane," right? To scan karo and
Ah.
find something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
obviously that creates. You have to create that curiosity. You cannot just be like, okay, I put the QR code, it should work. It should not be like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, I think creativity comes in place with all these things. But I think that simple thing, right, that people scan, right, that is the trend, right?
Mm, yeah.
And how they have capitalized it, like, that is something definitely, put a lot of efforts. It's
Mm.
not that easy.
That the point that you mentioned, that's a simple thing, was a wow moment. Reason
Yeah,
being, when we say trend, everybody's like, "Oh my god, this reel has came," or maybe
yeah,
this meme is viral, or this particular image is viral. There are so many images as well that has been
yeah.
viral.
Right, right,
But
right.
just to look at an angle that, okay, QR code is also a trend.
Yeah.
It's the simplest ones that we might ignore. So yeah,
Because it
that.
is there in front of you every day, right? But
Mhm.
you, I think I personally do roughly 10 scans in a day, right? I go to grocery, I go to, any kind of a payment I'm doing. So it's all scan right now, right? So, but we generally ignore that. Okay, fine. Even I don't know how many scans I'm doing. So I'm
Yeah.
just telling that, yes, I think you have to be selective, right? And I think this is what even Flipkart has done, right? So they are very selective and then they are just, create a multiple impact out of it.
Mm, awesome, awesome. Moving ahead, Sandesh, I just wanted to understand, could you relate storytelling with, like, how do you, in terms of trends, how do you go to, go with the data analytics approach and try to tell a story there? Does this make sense? Does this become a part of trends? And does this make an impact? Like, because as a marketer for a company, any company, XYZ company, if we recognize a trend, let's say, and we saw through data analytics, we saw this is a trend and it would be helpful. How do we continue it about telling a story? Because there are so many things that are impacting it, and for each and every brand, they want to make it their own. They want
Yeah.
to add their own flavor. They want to add their own texture and bring their own story. So how do marketers do that? Can you explain a
Sure.
little bit?
I think a very classic example for this, again with my Wakefit experience, is the sleep internship, if
Mm-hmm.
you've heard of, right? So
Yeah, I have.
in Wakefit, as a brand, right, is primarily known for the mattress when they launched, right? Right now, obviously, they have ventured into furniture and everything, right? So, and again, when it comes to mattress, people relate, okay, fine, sleep. Sleep is the first thing comes in mind. And again, if you will look for a particular trend in India, that generally India is not a very, it's a very sleep deprived country, right? So a lot of people don't have a very decent sleep generally, with WHO talks about that, okay, 7 to 8 hours and all those things. Generally, in the survey, you find that it's very limited, right? People are not going through that, very well sleep. Uh, so I think that was the main thing. And I think how, again, as I mentioned, right, that every brand comes with their own recall piece and, with their own way of explaining that, okay, why they are there in the market.
Mm-hmm.
You have to then conceptualize an idea, right? So with all these things, I think Wickfit created this sleep internship, right? And again, it's a storytelling that we would like to, although they were incentivizing the people, for a perfect sleep, but I think the whole idea was that they would like to create that behavior of, let's say, starting with those 10 folks, to sleep well at least, right? I think that comes, I think, with a very great narrative, I think, and the way I think it is now. Uh, Cascading the impact of that particular piece, right, is still there, right? I think I was just going through the recent sleep internship that they've done. I think they have received more than 10 lakh of application, just for the sleep internship
Mm-hmm.
program, right? And I think that was the season 3, right? And I think it is still going on. I think in the first season, obviously, I think a lot of big news agencies has covered it, right? But I think it's not like that it has died down after season 1. So season 1, season 2, even though it was COVID, I think I was there when season 2 was happening, and even though it was COVID, but still, people were very enthusiastic about all this, sleep internship and all those pieces. You, I think, still not believe that I'm still getting a lot of LinkedIn, messages, and how I can apply, right? When this
Yeah.
will open, right, for season 4. Although I have left Wakefit, it's been
Mm-hmm.
more than 1.5 year, but still people reach out to me because they know, they understand that, yes, I am an ex Wakefitian. So I think this is the impact, right? So again, I think the way you story tell about your brand, right? That okay, sleep mattress, and you are relating everything, and just creating a concept of sleep internship. Again, you won't believe, sleep internship was not searched 3 4 years back. Now it is one of the leading search term also, right? So if you will just
Wow.
check out the search volume, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I think people just talk about that. Okay, I am seeing a trend, but here a brand is creating a trend, right?
Yeah.
So people are searching for it now, right? And it's also in a huge volume, right?
Mhm,
3 years back the search volumes were zero, or 4 years back the search volume was zero, right? And
mhm.
now it is trending roughly at around 1 lakh or something like searches in a month.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a, you can say that a storytelling can happen, with a simple thing that okay, sleep is very important. I'm a mattress brand, so how I can create an idea behind it and create a trend on top of it, basically.
Mhm. I am. I'll tell you what. I applied for the first season
Yeah,
of Sleep Internship, so I remember it very precisely.
sure,
Didn't
sure.
got selected, obviously, but yeah, it was very fun concept, and I
Yeah,
think as their audience, I think I interacted with it very well because uh, didn't just gave us the opportunity to understand it. They also, I remember, they also added a lot of facts about sleep.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they were mentioning sleep as if this is something, this is a work, and
yeah,
you should be doing it.
yeah.
So it was very interesting, and I think it as a viewer, as their audience, it made me realize that what the brand is doing,
Yeah,
what is it about, and read more about the brand. So it was a great branding perspective as well.
yeah.
And yeah, the last thing that we were going to talk about was about this only. How does a brand create a trend? So that
Hmm.
was something that we can wrap up with. So could
Yeah,
you
I
talk?
have
You
already
can.
covered this. So I
Yeah.
think primarily this is you have to do, right. So uh, if you know that okay, something is working for you to create that impact, I think from that perspective that it should not be about a short term outcome for you, right. So you have to invest into it. Uh, it's not like obviously, like I can also give you a classic example of Yash Raj, right. When he started, it's not like that he was not creating a lot of content, right? Yashraj Mukhate, right? So,
Mm,
but he got famous with that Rasode Mein Kaun Tha album, right? I think,
mm,
and before that also, it's not like that. He's not creating the content, but I think once you will start creating, I think then obviously you are creating and once you're getting a hit, right? I think
mm,
consistency is very very important. So once you're getting a hit, I think that's the game changer for you. But I think it's not like that you're creating one piece of content or maybe like whatever trend, right? And it will be something a game changer. You have to do repeatedly multiple times. I think a lot of brand has done that multiple times, right? That okay, I'm creating, let's say 10 things, 15 things, then obviously one out of those things will work for you. So I think keep on doing those things. Definitely one or two things can hit that ball, right? And then you will have a six. So I think that is very, very important. I think it's require a lot of detailed understanding, study. It's just not like that. Okay, you're doing something in random. So do your research, I think, and definitely start doing those things, and you will have success. In that way.
mhm. And to conclude your point, I will also add this, that in order to create a trend, a brand has to keep going on,
Yeah. I think don't
finding
think
ways.
about that, okay, I have to create a trend, right? Just think,
Yeah.
and no, I was saying that I think just don't think about that you have to create a trend, right? I think just think about creating the right set of content for your audience, right? And I think definitely one or two things can become a trend. If you think, I think it should not be like, okay, I should always think about, okay, I have to create a trend,
Hmm.
right? Think like that, then it's a pressure on you and you don't know what
Yeah.
you are creating, right? So just be very simple, be create. I think the valuable thing for your users, for your audience, for your customers. If it will hit, definitely, it can scale and you never know the quantum of that scale,
Yeah.
basically.
For sure. So yeah, that was a long yet very useful and very interesting conversation with you, Sandesh.
Sure.
So thank you so much once again for coming and joining us for this podcast, for sharing all such insights. It's always amazing to learn from your experience, because you have worked with so many different brands from different industries. Like you're right now in the gaming industry, earlier you were working with Wakefit, and such huge experience. And I'm always amazed with the kind of things you point out, because those are such minor things which maybe we do not actually thought about, and then we realize all of a sudden, oh my god, this can make such a huge difference. And I think this is one major point that makes you such a successful and such an amazing marketer. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our users and our listeners as well. Thank you for being here. Please go to Sandesh's LinkedIn profile. We'll be adding it, and connect with him. I'm sure he'll be, sharing more such insightful information with you.
Sure,
Thank you
sure.
so much. Have a
Thanks, Nata.
nice
Thank you. Bye-bye.
episodes on our website or YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to show your support. We also have a very special treat for marketers seeking to enhance their skills in PPC marketing. Visit our website and explore our free academy section, exclusively designed to provide valuable resources and knowledge in this field. And to connect with marketers like yourself, join our Slack community for marketers. Details given in caption below.